The OnePlus 13 came out swinging, and this could be its year to be the best all-around phone. I made a list of my favorites and least favorite things about this phone, and as we go through the list, I think you'll see why I think this. Let's get started. I'm gonna start off with the positive things, and the first one on my list is the new design. It fixed some of the issues that it had before, or at least for some people, and I think it found a happy middle ground for the screen. It has the slight curve to keep it comfortable, but not that huge curve where you get a massive glare when you're watching videos. It's actually really close to the bezel as it is, so it's not gonna make much of a difference. Honestly, this is just I think I'm calling it the Goldilocks zone of flat and curved edges. It got the flat sides, which is better for grip. The back panel is super nice and they flattened it out. And it looks more modern and it just looks like a pretty phone. Just overall, it might be the best looking phone this year. And then even though they made the sides flat, they still gave it a nice little radius so that it's comfortable in your hand no matter where you're holding it. That's something that, you know, the new phone designs don't really leave a lot of room for, and OnePlus managed to make it work perfectly fine and keep it comfortable while making it look modern. The second thing was probably the biggest jump up that they had this year, and it's the software. Of course, it's not limited to the OnePlus 13 because the OnePlus 12 got, I think, every single feature that I was able to find is on the OnePlus 12 as well. But that doesn't change the fact that they made a big leap in terms of software. One, in terms of how fluid it looks as good as Samsung and Pixel, honestly. Two, they added a lot of features to it, like the AI features like circle to search, which is, to me, is the most important one, honestly. Lately I've been using it literally every day. So it's a very important one and a very useful tool. They added some nice features like swiping on the right side to bring down the settings and swiping on the left to bring down the notifications. And all these small changes just add to the quality of life, and it's a pretty big difference from the previous generation of software. And the next one is pretty much going to continue with the quality of life, and it's the camera changes. There was nothing too drastic about it, but they just made everything mesh together a lot better. The photos and videos, probably because of the processor more than anything, they're coming out a little bit sharper. And I'm not talking about like over sharpening type of sharpen. It's actually one of the better ones in my opinion in terms of how sharp it is. It's just that when you're cropping in on the lens, it's doing a good job of keeping it just a little bit sharper than it would at the base level, at the base zoom level, and just kind of matches the base zoom a bit more. They did a really good job, and the pictures are more usable now as you crop in digitally. And then going back to like the whole meshing in together, all the sensors are 50 megapixel now, so you don't have a 48, 64, and 50, which, you know, most of the time is not a big deal, but when you're doing high-res photos, every single photo is a different size. And it was a bit annoying when I was doing the camera comparison with the OnePlus 12 because I had to adjust each photo or the photos from the different lenses differently. Now, since they're on 50 megapixels, it's gonna make it a bit easier. Plus, I think it's gonna help with getting a more consistent video output as well, because you're not binning or cropping in more or less on the other ones. You're sticking to the same type of crop in because of the 50 megapixel being the same. The quality is still not gonna be the same, obviously, because each lens is a different size, but it's gonna be a lot closer than it was with previous generation. And they even added a few software upgrades. For example, now you can record in their steady mode in 4K, which previously you were limited to 1080p. And even with Samsung, which is one of the better ones right now, it's still Quad HD, not Ultra HD. So there is a step up here, and it actually is gonna help to keep your videos more consistent again. I mean, there was just a lot of things done here to make the camera use more consistent all around. Number 4 on my list is the water resistance. So yeah, previously it did have a bit of water resistance with splashing, which is kind of like the one you need the most anyway. Submersion, it could happen, especially in a very rainy area like where I live, where you can have puddles everywhere. Or if you are someone that goes to the pool a lot. It's not gonna help too much with the seawater anyway, the salt water, so that doesn't really matter in that position. But you know, for the other ones, it's still a useful thing to have the IP rating. And they didn't just match what was out there, they went to IP69. It's not the only phone that has IP69, but you know, it's quite a bit of a jump going from 65 to 69. So now even if you're getting hosed down by the fire department because you got caught fire or something, your phone's gonna be alright, even though you might not be alright. Number 5 on my list for the positives is the battery life. And it's not just that, you know, it got the new chip and, you know, it's being a bit more efficient with everything. It actually has a bigger battery now because they went with the silicon diode or whatever they're calling it. I need to remember that name really. And so now it's a bigger battery. It's not any heavier. It's actually a lighter phone and it holds more capacity. It's at 6,000 milliamp hours compared to the 5,400 from the previous generation. I see gamer phones going up as well, so I don't think it's gonna be the new generation of gamer phone level, but at least it's last gen gamer phone level of battery capacity. It's something and it's a nice improvement. So that was my good list, but before we get to the bad list, remember that liking and subscribing will really help this channel out and I would really appreciate it. But let's get on with the bad list now. And the first one is something that hasn't been new for OnePlus. It's literally been every single OnePlus that I've bought and it's a bit annoying. But every time I unbox this phone and I try to connect to the Wi-Fi, it only finds my 2.4 gigahertz SSID instead of my 5 gigahertz. I have it separated. I know not everyone does. I have it separated for work reasons because I need a 2.4 because it's more stable. So that's one of my annoyances with it. So far, the OnePlus Open was finally able to start finding my 5 gigahertz. My OnePlus 12 still hasn't been able to find my 5 gigahertz SSID. And this one still hasn't. It's on the 2.4 as well. My second negative is that the camera's missing some pretty basic modes and a couple of the ones that I just are a bit more premium, but I think it should have by now. So one of the things is that it doesn't have 24 frames per second. If it has 30 and it can do 4K 60 and all these different things, why can't they have 24 frames per second? I understand that the 30 frames per second is the standard right now, especially with phones. But some people like the 24 like me. Plus, if you're in low light, the 24 is gonna pick up more light and give you a better picture overall. So there's benefits to it. And it being the slowest frame rate, I just don't see why they don't add it. It seems like a no-brainer to me. Just even if no one uses it, just put it on there. How hard can it be to maintain that one? The other one's gonna be the portrait video because it's still stuck at 1080p. I don't see why because it has the same chipset as Samsung. Why can't they just do portrait video in 4K? There's a big gap between 1080p and 4K. So if you're recording a video and you want to have this one segment where it has a more blurred background for that cinematic effect, you would be able to do it. But when you do it with 1080p and you mix it with a 4K video, you can see the difference and it's not gonna look good. And then the last one that comes to mind is the movie mode, which I really do like that mode. It has a very nice aspect ratio and it has a couple of good tools in it as well, but you can't select your frame rate, your frames per second. It's stuck at 30. You can't do 60, you can't do 24. You're just stuck at 30. And to me, that's a bummer, especially you have that, it's called movie mode. Movies are shot in 24 frames per second. So why don't they have 24 frames per second movie mode? It just doesn't make sense. And again, it's a slower frame rate, should be easier on the phone and everything else. Just add it. It's not a big one. It's a small ask, honestly. And the last one on my negative list is not even really a negative for the phone, just for the overall brand. And it's that it doesn't have a baby brother. I like the smaller phones because they're more compact, they fit into pockets easier, they're easier to handle. And I think OnePlus is missing out on not having a smaller one, like a 6.3 inch version of the OnePlus 13. I hope they do bring it out one day. It's not a game changer, it's not gonna be anything too special, but there is a gap there. And I think that segment, that phone size actually sells pretty good. The one set of numbers that I have to go by is Samsung's with the recent numbers for the S25 series. The S25 Ultra, obviously it sells the best because people want the best of everything. And their S25 and S25 Plus don't keep up with their Ultras. It's missing a camera, 2 cameras, 3 cameras. The cameras are way worse. So even with that, the base model S25 sold more than S25 Plus. That means people actually want the smaller phones too. There's a gap there. The only phone that actually has this right now is Pixel's Pixel 9 Pro. But OnePlus has a chance to get into that market, which is barren right now. and to get ahead of the game. And if they just release this exact phone the way exactly how it is, smaller battery obviously because it's a smaller phone, I think it'll sell well. So to finalize everything, I think it was easy to see why I think this could be the best all-around phone this year. I mean, the weaknesses that I noticed are not big at all. I mean, most people won't even call them weaknesses because they want to use those things. Everything was improved and everything is at a level that's top notch. Honestly, nothing is gonna leave it behind this year. The only thing that you might be missing out on is maybe software, you like one over the other. But besides that, it's got all the features you need, honestly, especially with the new AI features that it got the important ones. It's a full package now. And I could easily recommend this to any of my friends, and I wouldn't even feel bad about it because I know they would enjoy it. I do have an affiliate link in the description if you do want to buy the OnePlus 13. It will really help me out, but never feel pressured. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.